I'm Leslie English, and I want to welcome you back to my video teaching series titled A Study of the Redemptive Gifts. Today is session 9 of a 9-part series where we are studying more in depth the redemptive gifts that are found in Romans chapter 12, verses 6 through 8. The resource study book that I'll be referencing and reading from today is titled Design for Fulfillment, A Study of the Redemptive Gifts. This was written by Charles R. Whale Jr. and the foreword was by Arthur Burke. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to tune in to the first 8 sessions of this series, as today is the last session of the series. In session 1, I talked about what redemptive gifts are, why we study them, and we found that everyone is born with a dominant gift that God's placed in them, and that the reasons we study them is to learn more about God, to learn more about ourselves, and learn more about others. I hope you had the opportunity to go to www.lionscommunity.com. Click on the menu tab, go down to Redemptive Gifts Teaching, and download the screening, and went through and took the screening and found whatever highest percentage of the 7 gifts that you are, and that will be your dominant redemptive gifts. The 7 gifts are prophet, servant, teacher, exhorter, giver, ruler, and mercy. And in today's session, we will be diving into that mercy one. But in sessions 3, I went over the prophet gift. In session 4, servant. In session 5, teacher. In session 6, exhorter. Session 7, the giver. And in session 8, we went over the ruler gift. I hope you've enjoyed this series as much as I've enjoyed and have a passion about this, about teaching others and leading others. As you found out in the last session, my dominant gift is the ruler gift, and we have such a passion for leading other people and seeing people walk in freedom. And from this study, that is the part that I've seen the most, that people begin to feel a sense of freedom to be who God has called them to be exactly what they and who they are, because He's designed them perfect in His image. Mercies, I'm excited to speak to you today and dive more in depth into yours, because you are so much about feel, and I've seen so much of God's power be poured into you once you realize your place and your importance. So I can't wait to go more in depth in this study today, and I hope it speaks to you as I've hoped that all the rest of these have. I hope that if you don't have this redemptive gift, you're going ahead and watching it to give you a better understanding of this gift, because there are some key things about this gift that I have found. As I've said before, my sister is a beautiful mercy gift, and learning about this gift has brought us so much closer and so much deeper in our relationship, and I understand her so much better, and I've seen God's calling literally be poured out on her, and to her step in to the calling that she's been called to be, as I hope the same for you. So let's dive right into the key characteristics and discover all there is about the mercy gift. Mercies, you get along with everybody and easily, and you rarely have enemies. You have lots of similarities with servants and lots of similarities with exhorters with all of this, that you can get along with anyone and you don't have enemies. You're very admired and you're very respected, even though sometimes I don't think you see that. You're a safe person for those who are wounded. You can make everyone feel safe by sharing in their hurts. You can be approached by complete strangers. If you have this gift, you may have had a time where someone, just complete stranger, walk up to you at Walmart or walk up to you somewhere. Complete strangers will just approach you out of nowhere. You're a safe person. They can feel that radiating from you. You can take the initiative toward wounded ones. You know who is feeling wounded and rejected. Because see, as I've referenced in earlier sessions about prophets and teachers understanding the mind of God, you understand the heart of God and you understand the hearts of other people. You literally feel what people are feeling. When you walk into a room, you feel what people are feeling in the room. When you can absolutely feel if someone is feeling wounded or rejected, you literally feel that in your soul. You know that deep down and you can feel it. You have a huge number of acquaintances and people that enjoy you, but only a few of those are considered your close friends. You share everything, though, with those intimate friends. I think that is a key thing, too. You do have lots of acquaintances or people you'd consider friends, but you don't really get super close with lots of people. In contrast to like an exhorter gift would have more closeness. You definitely keep that pretty intimate, but those feelings are shared. You share everything with those that are really close with you. You crave intimacy of soul and of physical touch. You desire hugs and physical contact. You literally need that. You need hugs. You need to touch. You will touch other people that, and I find this very interesting. If you're a man with a mercy gift, I've talked about my husband as a man with a mercy gift. Sometimes that can be hard on men because, we have this masculine and things appearance, and it can actually be very hard on them because of they have to be watchful. They desire and want to physical touch, but in society and things in the way that's been perverted, that they can't touch in the way they desire. But definitely they're the hugger. If you have a friend that's a hugger that always has to hug, they definitely have a lot of tendencies with the mercy gift. They tend to be slow to make transitions based on emotional processing. They do not like rapid change without time to process. This is a big one for you, mercies. You need time to process what's going on around you. You do not like to be, it almost feels abusive to you, or people are making you make decisions on a thing. Versus in contrast, the prophet gift, who's very quick, very rulers, make quick decisions and easily. When I was talking back about my sister, this is very true. My mom's a prophet, I'm a ruler. We make decisions really quickly. So sometimes growing up, I didn't understand why she would be like, I don't know what to wear. I don't know what to wear. I'm like, just put clothes on. Like, I don't understand. Like, you have to choose. But now I see and understand and appreciate she really does need more time to process. She's thinking about all kinds of things, about feelings, like, is she going to be too hot? Is she going to be too cold? Is that going to feel right to her? And, do their clothes feel right? That's big for mercies, how things feel. You hear from God, but you have difficulty explaining the why. You operate on subjective, intuitive feelings. You hear from him, but you can't always explain it or articulate things. And sometimes I think when you're pressed to articulate it, that can be very hard on you, very pursed down. You wonder, why can't I tell people what God's telling me? Why can't I articulate it and put it into words? But literally, if you don't have this gift, understand, they can't do that sometimes. They can't put it into words what God's telling them. They just know it. They just feel it. They make decisions based on their heart, how they feel. They're led by their heart, and that's what's beautiful about them. They hate to confront. They want to keep people from hurting and protect people from pain. They do not like to choose sides between two people. They don't want to say that one's right and one is wrong. Like literally, if myself and someone else was standing here holding a jug of ice cream and I was holding vanilla and the other one was holding chocolate, and a mercy gift came up and we were forcing them choose vanilla or choose chocolate, they would literally be standing there thinking, I don't want to, even no matter what they prefer, maybe they really don't like vanilla at all, but they would be thinking, I don't want to not choose vanilla because I don't want to hurt her feelings and what she's hurting, what she's holding. That's the process that's going through their mind, is they don't want to say someone's right or someone's wrong. They don't want to hurt someone's feeling in that. They're prone to appear indecisive because of that. They'll stand there, they'll think about it. They don't want to hurt anyone. And having to choose between people's opinions can be very paralyzing to them. They just stop. They don't want to make a choice. That's very hard for them. Abusive to them, honestly. Referencing back to the things I've saw in marriages before. If you have one that's a mercy gift, that can be very paralyzing on them to make them choose. So we need to let them have time to emotionally process, go through it, figure it out. They can become people pleasers and enablers because the immature mercy may do whatever is necessary to make the people around them happy with them. They'll do whatever to make people happy. And they can become enablers because they don't want they don't want to see the person go through, whereas say someone is in sin and you're praying for someone, and the prophet will say, God, do whatever you have to do to them as long as they'll turn from their sin. And mercies will say that, but deep down there, as the person begins to go through some maybe fun things, some like icky situations, but a prophet will see that and be like, yes, they're getting it. They're going through this hard time because they're going to come out on the other side. Mercy will want to take a hold of it and not want the person to go through that yuckiness. They want to take it back, like, oh, don't put them through that. They don't want them to feel that. So sometimes they can enable things because they don't want the person to go through the hard time. They may attract abuse or exploitation because of their kindness, their niceness, and their willingness to allow injustices to happen. They have a deep strain of anger, which appears rarely. And it usually is in context to the loyalty to someone else. They tend to take up the offense for a third party. So they definitely, if it's someone they're loyal to, so just like we saw in servants are very hard to be angered, except if you mess with their family or their kids. They have a deep loyalty to that. So do mercies. They have a very deep strain of anger if it comes to a third party of hurting those people they're close with. They're drawn to the gift of the prophet. Opposites tend to attract. So decisiveness of the prophet, like I said before, the quick decisions balances the indecisiveness of the mercy. But the prophet needs the softening influence of the mercy. The mercy's gift tends to have a very softening influence. That is not saying by any means, way, shape, or form that they are soft or weak. They're actually very strong and powerful gifts. They just tend to balance and understand and see things. They are prone to stubbornness. They may acknowledge that what they're doing is not God's will and yet not change. They can choose to be life-giving when they want to, or how they want to, and where they want to, but they can stubbornly resist doing all things that God's called them to do. This strain of stubbornness is different. It's like the sweetest strain of stubbornness you've ever seen. It's not like advertently like, no, I'm not doing it. No, this is how it goes. You start to tell a mercy, you say, I need you to do this, and they're shaking their head and they're smiling at you. Yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And deep down, they're like, there is no way, absolutely no way. She's not changing my mind. They are inadvertently, and the most sweetest kind, they just smile and say okay and shake their head, but they know, no moving them. They're very stubborn when it comes to that. They just do it in a very sweet manner. They can easily enter into God's presence, and they have a predisposition for worship. Worship comes easy for the mercy. Mercies, you just want to be, just you and God. I could start to sing a song right now and you're already entering into worship so easily. It's just ingrained in who you are. It's beautiful, and you can lead so many others in worship because you get worship. It is just part of your nature and who you are. You're often have unresolved issues with fathering in your life. And they may see all pain as bad. They may flee from pain and keep others from the discipline of God when He intends to build maturity and wholeness through discipline. They sometimes feel like it's abusive to have correctiveness. And so sometimes as a parent, they struggle because even though they don't want, they struggle with correcting their children or seeing God correct these people, because they see all pain as bad, that pain is just bad. But although the rest of us and the other gifts understand that sometimes we go through things to learn from them and grow from them, that's just a very hard aspect for a mercy to grasp a hold of. So some weaknesses of a mercy. One can be impurity. They desire for intimacy and physical touch, but that can lead to impurity. Enabling. They want to protect others from pain, like I was talking about before. At all costs, they don't want people to hurt. So they can sometimes enable bad behavior because they don't want to see people go through the hard stuff. They can compromise, willing to live with a mixture of holy and unholy without calling people to do what's right because they don't want to hurt people. And they're definitely non-confrontational. They may tolerate abuse and exploitation because they're willing to allow injustice to continue. Sometimes they even feel, for whatever reason, like the servants, that they deserve it in some manner, which is not true at all. They don't deserve to be abused or to be put down or exploited in any way, shape, or form. But somehow that is a weakness that they'll start to believe that that's where the enemy can attack them and sneak in. So you need to be watchful of that. If you start feeling that way, you start binding that up and casting that out. That you have a place and you have power and authority through Jesus Christ, and he's given it to you, and he wants you to walk in dominion over those things. So don't let yourself be abused and don't let yourself be exploited. You are a child of the Most High King, a King of kings and the ruler of the world. You're a princess to him, and he admires you in that way. Some biblical examples. I'll mention just a couple, then we'll go in more depth with one. One is the first man that was created, Adam. He was a mercy. David, who we see as a worshiper and a man after God's own heart, was a mercy. Ruth was, so was Joshua. But the one we'll talk most in depth of is John, the Apostle John. He was a beautiful example of the mercy gift. A mercy has the ability to sense genuine love. John uses the word love more than any other writer in the Bible. A mercy speaks the language of love. John often used terms of relationship and endearment in his letters. A mercy needs to develop deep friendships with mutual commitment and is drawn to the gift of the prophet. John spent a lot of time with Peter, who had the gift of prophet. A mercy wants physical closeness and quality time. John was frequently found next to Jesus. A mercy measures relationships by love. John identified himself as the disciple Jesus loved. John valued fellowship and relationship. A mercy tends to take up an offense for someone they love. John was fiercely protective of Jesus and his ministry in Mark 9:38 and Luke 9:54. A mercy tends to be sensitive to the emotional needs of others. John wrote about emotional needs such as fellowship, joy, love, fear, torment, and confidence. A mercy tends to be a follower and not given to boldness until pushed into a corner. That's where you'll see them lash out, is when you push them in a corner. That's where you'll see it. But otherwise, they're not drawn to boldness. John did not want to be a leader, but when he was challenged, he would rise to the occasion. A mercy is concerned with the heart message, not the head. John frequently spoke of people's hearts. Worship comes easily for a mercy. John wrote the magnificent worship scenes we see in Revelations 4, 1 through 11, and 5, 1 through 14, 15, 2 through 4. So many examples that he wrote in Revelation. I think it's just an amazing thing. We also talked about this when we talked about Christ on the cross, and he referred to John and asked John to take care of his mother. He knew that John was going to be the one that could take care of his mother, who had just been, I can't imagine how she felt to watch her son be crucified on that cross. And John would feel what she felt. The mercies, you literally feel what people feel around you. Another thing I want to talk about, just throw in here just a little bit, because I'm not too sure if it gets to it. Sometimes mercies also will struggle, or weaknesses with anxiety, and that's because they don't understand. Sometimes when they walk in a room, they literally can feel everything and everyone around them. So if people's brought in bad spirits, or they brought in different things, that strongholds that have been attached to them, mercies, you'll feel that. And you need to understand and start asking God to reveal your discernment, to increase your discernment, so you can discern, what is of you and what's not of you. What are you feeling from the person next to you versus what you're feeling, and be able to understand and feel that. And also, when you pray for other people, make sure when you pray for other people, you don't pick it up and then hold on to it and grasp it. Make sure you're not just standing there holding it and not letting it go. What you need to do is feel what people are going through, take on their burden, pray with all the fierceness that you have, and then lay it at your Father's feet. Don't continue to hold on to it or pick it back up. It'll literally destroy who you are. You have to learn how to lay it at your Father's feet and know that He's in control and He has it all handled. I encourage you to do that. Okay. Mercy, you're called the crown jewel of all the gifts. It doesn't mean that any one gift is better than the rest. That's just a term that's used. Your mercy, you are crucial with worship. It's in your DNA. You come into God's presence in worship, and then you lead others into the presence at a very intimate level. Worship is cleansing and brings holiness to the rest of the body, making the bride of Christ pure. The mercy gift frequently expresses worship and pain artistically. Mercy is designed primarily to be, not to do. That's very contrasting to the ruler or giver gift where everything's focused on doing. Yours is just to be. The gift of the mercy feels life and does not just do life. You definitely can stop and smell the roses, and you take the opportunity to do that, and I admire that quality in you. You move at a slower speed because God designed you to extract the deepest amount of insight, understanding, and wisdom from what He sees. You have the highest level of ministering to the wounded. You speak the language of love. You absorb pain and tension around you and can become burden bearers for others. You are easily hurt and have difficulty processing and healing from injury. Mercies develop protective structures for dealing with pain. Mercies celebrate what is good, right, and true. They are alert and aware to the whole parts of the whole. You're sensitive to the things being out of place. You recognize alignment when all the pieces are in the right relationship. Mercies must realize what they think, process, and feel is very different than from others. People around them will try to change the mercy and make him fit into a more acceptable mold. Once the mercy is released to be who God has designed them to be, the things that they do will be a whole different flavor. I think that's just amazing. When you begin to realize to just be who God's created you to be, and that's perfect and wonderful, it'll be a whole new awakening for you. So we've been talking about the sevens in Scripture. The number that correlates with this gift, as it's the last gift, is number 7. So in everything that we study, it'll be the 7th. So we'll begin with your authority, which is derived from the 7 days of creation. And so on the 7th day of creation, we see that parallels the gift of the mercy. Because see, on the first 6 days, God was busy. He was doing things, creating things, making things. And on the 7th day, He was just being. While the mercy is capable of doing many things, the mercy's heart is to enjoy God and be in His presence. God spent the 7th day savoring what He had done. Mercies move at a slower speed because God designed them to extract the deepest amount of insight, understanding, and wisdom from what they experience. Mercy sees God's fingerprints in a more complex way than the other gifts. Knowledge of God comes to the mercy through the art of savoring Him that no amount of analytical study will ever produce. God created nothing new on the 7th day, but He celebrated everything that He had created. Mercies celebrate what is good, right, and true. They have a great alertness to and awareness of how the parts relate to the whole. They recognize alignment when all the pieces are in the right place. They are more sensitive than the other gifts to things not being in the right alignment. Mercies have a craving for the ultimate alignment that God experienced on the 7th day of creation. Mercies draw from all the other gifts and in turn enhances all the other gifts. Mercy is the crown jewel of God's creation. God blessed the 7th day and He sanctified it. The call of the mercy is to celebrate God through worship and to sanctify time in their own lives and the lives of others. Wow, that's amazing. Being more sensitive and knowing how alignment is. You just feel when it's right and you feel when it's wrong. You just totally get it when things are in alignment and when they're not. And you can feel when something's off. So on the items of furniture in the tabernacle, the seventh item of furniture in the tabernacle is the mercy seat that was placed over the Ark of the Covenant in Exodus 25, 17 through 22 and 37, 6 through 9. Mercy is given a wonderful promise. There I will meet with you, and I will speak with you from the above the mercy seat. The mercy seat was where the visible glory of God dwelled between the two golden cherubim. The mercy seat provided a way for the presence of God to dwell with his imperfect and unholy people without consuming them. The gift of mercy can transition from the unclean fallen world to the throne room with the greatest ease. Mercy is able to live in both worlds. God's call in the mercy gift is to erase the line between the secular and sacred by bringing the fullness of God to all types of situations and people. This is the blessing of presence, where someone changes the spiritual climate around them simply by being there, without having to say or do anything. The gift of mercy has the ability to change the climate because they carry so much of the presence of God. Wow! You can change the climate because the more you know and invest in him and carry him with you, he lives in you. And when you walk in a room, the climate and the atmosphere can literally change because of the light of Jesus that lives inside of you. Wow. Just like I talked in the overview session in session 2, I told you the story about my sister releasing a sound and literally the whole thing changed. It just can change. It doesn't even have to be articulated in a well-structured type of environment and just spoken into word. Just your presence and maybe a sound you release can absolutely flip everything that's going on around you and the presence of God, and help us all to enter into the throne room and into his presence. It's just amazing. Now we'll begin to talk about the 7 sayings on the cross. So the last saying on the cross that Christ said was, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." It seems like a simple task, but it represents one of the greatest challenges of the mercy gift. Jesus had cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" We talked about that when we talked about the exhorter gift. That was the saying that paralleled their gift. But now Jesus was choosing to give his spirit to the same Father who he had just accused of forsaking him just a few sentences before. The gift of the mercy has a simple solution for dealing with those who hurt them. They stay away from them. Christ had just been wounded very deeply by his Father who had abandoned him. But based on what was right, not what felt right, but what he knew was right, he committed his spirit into the hands of the very one who had caused him so much pain. Ironically, mercy has few enemies, yet seems in many ways to have some of the weakest reconciliation skills. When the mercy has been deeply wounded, often their default position is to walk away, to raise a wall, maybe maintain contact with the person, but never let them in. They stubbornly renounce any possibility of intimacy with that person who has wounded them. The mercy needs leverage to leverage their great strength, which is the intimacy with God, into a model of reconciliation. God is calling the mercy to do what Jesus did on the cross, to move toward that person who does not deserve it and to offer intimacy out of the overflow of the intimacy with God. The mercy also needs to take the initiative toward God in those times when the Father himself has hurt the mercy, when he goes through the desert and feels the silence of God. As we talked about the prophet, the silence of God is very hard on the mercy gift also. You know, they feel like God's turned their back on him. And you need to remember that, he's not turned his back on you. It's just a time. It's just a time period, a season you're going through to help you dig in deeper. And when the mercy has done everything they know to do to conform to the will of God, and it seems that God is not moving and is ignoring them, they must choose to move toward God rather than pull back. So if you're going through a time of that in your life, when you feel like God's silent, pursue him. reconcile him. Don't pull back and say, well, just forget it, I can't feeling. Don't just pull back and renounce that. I encourage you too, if you've been wounded by other people, we all fall short. We all have times in this life that we've had people hurt us in some way and wound us in some way. I encourage you to not pick up that spirit of offense. It is only going to destroy you. It doesn't destroy the other people. Go toward them, ask for forgiveness, work it out, reconcile your differences. That's what Jesus was doing by example here when he was on the cross. He knew that he had to still do and commit himself into the hands of the Father. And that is the prime example of reconciliation. Now we will talk about your birthright, which is based on the 7 churches in Revelation. The redemptive gift of the mercy parallels the church of Laodicea in Revelation 3, verses 14 through 22. It begins by saying, "You're wretched, poor, pitiful, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so you can become rich, and white clothes to wear to cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes to see." The gold refined in the fire refers to character. Revelation 19 shows that the white clothes represent the good deeds of the saints. Eye salve is seeing in the spiritual realm the things that are more important than the natural realm. Mercies can mistakenly go after the comfort in the nature, being neither hot nor cold, accommodating people. But God says mercy is made for excellence in character, which is not developed in the times of ease, but in times of hardship. The gold refined in the fire is character that is the product of endurance, hard work, and diligence, systematically building the character of Christ. Mercy is called to have exquisite character that has been tried in the fire and proved to be worthy. God designed the mercy to pursue excellence, to have a great character, to do a wealth of good deeds, and to see the treasures of the spiritual realm that God wants to show them. As they do these things, God will take great pleasure. In Laodicea, he wanted to spit the believers out, but he said, "I am standing at the door knocking, asking to come in." The Father desires for the mercy to move toward Christ in an imperfect state and allow intimacy with him to produce the fruit of character and discernment. God does not need them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps to be pleasing to him. He delights to have intimacy, which produces transformation. And then it says, "To him who overcomes, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne. Just as I overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches." Sitting on the throne can represent many things. It represents royalty, majesty, beauty, being set apart or above commoners. The mercy's design is to crave intimacy that comes from being a co-regent with Jesus Christ and the satisfaction in their spirit that comes from being surrounded with the ultimate beauty and perfection of the throne room. God designed the mercy gift with the desire for excellence, visual excellence, excellence in presentation, and desire for inclusion and connectiveness and intimacy with God. The mercy will never achieve the beauty of the throne and the throne room of heaven in this life. But it is the call of the mercy gift to try to find alignment, to bring beauty, to bring expression here on earth of what they will experience in heaven. The mercy should create the best masterpiece here on earth, bringing some of heaven to earth while continuing to yearn for the things to come. That's when you'll be completely filled, when you sit at the throne of our Creator under his feet. Until then, that's what you're going to yearn for. But you can make this world a better place around you by communicating that to others and being the light of Jesus. Now we'll talk about your principle. I think this is a good way to end the principles, because the principle that parallels the mercy gift is the principle of fulfillment. Fulfillment is using all of your abilities to do what God has designed you to do. Ephesians 2:10 says that we are God's workmanship. We are his masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do the works which God prepared in advance for us to do. God has uniquely designed each person to do a set of good works. God gave a different set of works to Paul, than he gave to Moses, David, or John. Each of them were designed for their set of works. You are God's best design for the works that he has prepared for you. I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to say it for all the gifts. That you are God's best design for the work that he's prepared for you to do. We all are unique. We all have different things that God has designed for us to do. I can't do what you're designed to do, and you can't do what we're designed to do. We can't do what each other's things are designed to do. No one else is better prepared for it. Servants, we talked about that when we talked about your gift. No one else is better prepared to do what God's called them to do than you. Fulfillment is not the same as happiness. Listen to that. Our culture generally defines happiness as neither having problems nor having enough money to pay somebody to take care of those problems. But happiness is not the primary goal of life. God illustrated this in the principle of the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were in paradise, but in order for them to experience fulfillment, God gave them a problem to solve. He told them to be fruitful and to multiply. God knew that they had the capacity to learn a massive amount of information and to solve the problems that he presented them, because he had interwoven it into their very being. Without the pressure of the problem to solve, they would probably not have been motivated to learn how to be fruitful. They would remain underachievers, and underachievers do not experience fulfillment. The only way to experience fulfillment is to embrace the right problems that God presents us with that will cause growth. Everyone was made to solve problems. The devil's goal is to orchestrate each person's life so they don't have a chance to develop who they are. He keeps them busy doing many things, so they may end up frustrated, feeling futile, experiencing boredom, and not experiencing fulfillment. Jesus came to bring abundant life in John 10:10. God designed people to experience extraordinary fulfillment when they are doing what God created them to do. When the devil can create a generation of people who have sought God and ended up frustrated, experiencing futility in their lives, he has won great honor for himself. In order to achieve fulfillment, a person must first discover who they are and what problems they are supposed to solve. Secondly, hone their problem-solving skills into that area. And third, enjoy a life while solving the problems that God has designed them to solve. I think that's huge to be wrapping up this study with. That those three things are what you'll be able to achieve fulfillment with. Having a life where you feel joy and being fulfilled in what God's called you to do. It's discovering who you are and what problems that you're supposed to solve in this life and what he's designed you to do. Hone your problem-solving skills. Figure out how to administer those, how to orchestrate those, how to break them down. Here's the ruler gifted me. Break it down into little individual tasks to be able to reach out and achieve that next part of the goal and move towards your goal. And then enjoy life while solving the problems, being joyful as you go through. There's even scripture that talks about having rest in the work and joy in it, that you want to bring Christ, you want to bring God joy as he sees you walking in your calling. Can you think about that? Of a father that's looking down, watching you walk in fulfillment and having joy over his creation and what he's created. I know he looks down and he's happy with you. I know he looks down and he sees you trying. Yes, he sees us stumble. Yes, he sees us fall. He's willing with a hand to pick us up and says, keep going. He pats us, just like a child learning to ride a bicycle when we fall over and we wreck. And oftentimes parents help pick us up and tell us, get back on, go again, go one step further. As long as you get up, say if you fall 100 times, but you get up 101, you still win. That's an amazing thing in life. That's what God's called you to do and called you to be. And he smiles down on you as you walk in fulfillment. I'm going to end with the blessing prayer and the mercy, as we have with all the other gifts. Mercies, I bless you and honor you for your special place as the most complex and the most sensitive of the gifts. You are the crown jewel of God's creation. The Apostle John is the model for your gift with his intimate and confidential relationship with Jesus. I bless you for your safety for those who are wounded. You tend to attract people who are having mental and emotional distress. I bless your initiative toward wounded ones. You know who is feeling rejected, excluded, or wounded. People, even strangers, can safely share their pain. You can touch a grieving heart with your quick release of tears. I bless your deep power of compassion and the most healing of all human emotions. A biblical model for that, what a mercy does, is this Good Samaritan, who was sensitive and responsive to the needs of the wounded man when others, travelers, passed by on the other side. He identified with the man who fell among thieves. He had courage to translate caring into a practical action. He did what he did because he was the man that he was. I bless your loyalty to those you love. You are quick to take up offenses of family and friends when they are rejected or mistreated. You draw away from those who are insensitive to others. I bless your ability to sense genuine love. You have a large number of acquaintances and people who enjoy you, but you may have only a few close, intimate friends. I bless your need for deep friendships in which there is a mutual commitment and closeness. You have great expectations from friendships and can be deeply hurt by the disappointments in friends. Jesus is your only friend who will never disappoint you. I bless the totally different language that you speak, the language of the heart that is sometimes too deep for logic or for words. I bless you as you try to speak the language that your spirit does not have the vocabulary for. I bless how you recognize and capture God's presence in the ordinary events of everyday life. You see the beauty in the smallest things. You take time to smell the roses and appreciate unplanned moments of goodness. You communicate so much with your eyes, your touch, and your attention. You are frustrated when others don't understand this. You don't like people to try to re-engineer you into being something you're not. I bless your desire for closeness. You measure acceptance by physical closeness and quality time together. You crave intimacy of soul, physical touch, hugs, communication, and contact. God designed you for intimacy in body, soul, and spirit. He will make a way for its holy and righteous expression by His grace. I bless you with God's perspective on pain. Without His perspective, you can see no spiritual benefit to pain and suffering. When you avoid pain, the discipline of God may be wasted because He builds righteousness and maturity through the discipline of pain. You may react to God's purposes in allowing people to suffer, and you want to remove the pain quickly. I bless you to keep your eye on the joy set before you, to share in His holiness a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have trained by discipline, pain, by struggle. I bless you to turn to God for comfort when you're hurting. You can be sensitive, easily injured by the words and actions of others. You have a hard time healing from injury and processing and expressing what you're feeling. Others say to you, just get over it. This lack of understanding can cause you to withdraw or to shut down. I bless you to pursue God of all comfort and the Father of mercies, who will move into the pain and administer life where healing is needed. I bless you with the healthy, God-ordained boundaries. You have become a burden bearer for burdens that God does not intend you to bear. If you absorb pain from people who want to dump their pain on you, you don't have to absorb everybody's burdens. Jesus daily bears your burdens. His yoke is easy and His burden is light. Matthew 11:29 and 30. Trust Him to help you process emotions. I bless you to breathe deeper, live more freely, and connect more with people and God as you refuse to carry unholy burdens. I bless your decision-making processes. You tend to be slow to make transitions based on emotional processing. It's not wrong. It's uniquely you. You do not like change. You require longer to disengage emotionally and re-engage in the next thing. I bless you as you let God take you through this process in His time. I bless your ability to experience life differently. God wired you to operate intuitively. You feel the heart of God and make significant decisions based on your heart. That is your God-given appropriate language. I bless you for connecting with your heart and putting the other gifts in touch with processing that is spirit to spirit. You hear from God, but have the difficulty explaining the why. The first 6 gifts typically hear God with their mind in a linear, logical way, but you hear and understand God with your spirit before your mind can explain what the spirit heard. I bless you to be free to say, I don't know how I know, I just know. I don't have words. I bless you to represent God in tough love. You hate to confront anybody. You may find it hard to be firm and decisive because you don't want to offend. You tend to avoid decisions and firmness until not deciding will cause greater hurt. When you are operating below the maximum of your gifting, you may bless what is broke or even sinful. An enabler will sympathize with those who violate God's standards to preserve the feelings of others. I bless your design by God to be absorbed in the holiness so that there is no way to enable brokenness or sinfulness. You do not like to take sides or choose between 2 people. You may have be seen to be indecisive because you do not want to hurt anybody or say they're wrong. Your highest authority will come when you are so aligned with God's perspective that you can appeal to those in sin and encourage them to come into alignment with God. Your model is Jesus, who only did what he saw his Father doing. I bless you as you embrace the responsibility to see that which is clean and complete and aligned with God, and bless others to raise the standard. I bless you to let Father God re-father you and to show you who you really are. Let him heal your wounds of the earthly fathering and authorities. I bless you to let your heavenly Father establish you in your spirit. I bless you to be deeply fathered by him until there is no fear, insecurity, or roots of rejection or abandonment, so that you have freedom, wholeness, willingness to risk, inclusion, and belongingness. I bless you to step into your proper place in your heavenly Father so you can live out your birthright. Your spirit is not meant to be passive or to allow injustice. I bless you to win the battle against the victim mindset that attracts infirmity, financial devouring, physical abuse, sexual assault, or dishonor. You are a covenant child of the Most High God. You have dignity, honor, authority, and a special place in God's dominion. I bless you to rise up and to live in all that you are in God. You dislike and avoid warfare until you're pushed into a corner. When you see the pain others suffer, you can be drawn into spiritual warfare as a last resort. You are intended to master the art of worship as warfare. I bless you as you lift up the glory of God, his power, his miracles, and his works, his names, reminding all of heaven, earth, and hell that we serve the God of Most High. That is a radical disruption of the powers of evil around you. That will radically disrupt them. I bless your creativity that raises the water table of the spiritual life of your faith community. You are drawn to the arts to allow you to express your love of God and to vent the pain you feel or say visually what you do not have words for. Your sensitive spirit can express prayer, praise, reflection, peace, forgiveness, and reconciliation and connect them with the 5 senses. You appreciate creative expression and beauty in the spiritual life of the church. Your spirit knows you're made to worship. You seek the face of God in intimacy. You're called to fulfillment by connecting with the Spirit of God and easily going into the presence to absorb his holiness and glory and bring others there. You can release the holiness of the glory of God into this world, and I bless you as you impart the blessing of presence and alignment to people, land, the government, and buildings. I bless you to absorb the holiness of God in the Holy of Holies and then release the blessing of this holiness and to align that which is crooked or warped. On the 7th day, God aligned, sanctified, and celebrated everything he had already made. You celebrate the rightness of everything God has done and is doing. You know what right alignment is when all the pieces are in the right place. You are alert to how the parts relate to the whole. You are right to feel in your spirit that there is something more. I bless your innate knowing that there is another dimension of beauty, excellence, and perfection, where everything is so right, it resonates in heavenly keys and rhythms. I bless you with moving toward alignment in the spirit realm, where the spirit brings out the best of the soul, and the spirit and the soul are releasing the finest of what the body can do. That is your birthright. I bless you with becoming the guardian of God's alignment with your blessing of presence. I bless you as God releases you into the fullness of who you are made to be, knowing your Father, blessing others, and releasing holiness to their spirits. You are called to be large-spirited. I bless you with the authority and dominion in the community of the Spirit. I bless you in the name of the sevenfold Spirit of the true and living God. Amen. Mercies, you have a beautiful, powerful gift. You feel as God feels, and you feel what others feel. You are uniquely you and designed in His very perfect image. I encourage you to release that wherever you go. Be careful not to fall into the sins of the world. I will say that, sometimes mercies can struggle with addictions, with alcohol and drugs, because they're trying to fill a void of a feeling. They think they can make themselves feel better. Be cautious of that. Don't fall into that trap. God is who is going to make you feel better when you're walking in the fulfillment and what He's called you to be in an alignment with His Spirit. That's where you will be made to feel full and whole and complete. Otherwise, there's literally a hole in your heart that no other key will fit. No other thing will touch. It's the shape of a cross, and it's Jesus that's there. I want to thank you for tuning in to my 7-part series and a study of the redemptive gifts. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned more about God first and foremost, and about the way and purity and the way Jesus was in all of these 7 gifts, and how He demonstrated them even on the cross and in all parts and aspects of His life. I hope you've also learned more about yourself and where God and you become in alignment, and where He's created you to be and what He's causing you to be, pulling you to be and wanting you to be. And lastly, I hope you've understand more of the others around you, about the body, that we're all one body and we're all uniquely made in His image. And that we all can grow from each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses, and help to overlap those and work more hand in hand, and understand why a person thinks this way or why a person does this. We begin to understand that more, maybe how to relate to that person. I wouldn't necessarily, I can come to a prophet a little more strongly. They want you to get to the point, don't beat around the bush. Whereas a mercy, I might need to come a little differently. An exhorter, you might need to approach a little differently. We're going to approach, and even within those titles or labels, like I said, we don't get caught in a label, because everyone within those are even uniquely you and very different. These are just generalized sayings, and generalized characteristics that we can relate to and pull from. I am creating a Facebook page that is titled A Redemptive Gift Study. It looks like the picture at the beginning of all these videos of the man with the hand outstretched and the sunset. So when you search on Facebook, it'll be I'm going to change it to a public group where I'm going to share all these videos, and you should be able to find it there. And I'm hoping to have people plug in and start asking questions and have discussion. The disadvantage to doing this as a video series is when I do this live and with other people with me, I'm able to have a lot of discussion and pull from, and I think that's where I've learned the most and all that. So I feel that this is a disadvantage point, but the advantage point is to be able to reach more people this way in a broader, bigger view, and be able to reach out and minister to those. So you can reach out. You can also email our church email at lionscommunitychurchmail@gmail.com with any questions or concern. As I said, my name is Leslie English, and you can put those in subject to me with questions or concerns, and reach out to us. Like I said, find us on Facebook. These are going to be posted to YouTube. You should be able to watch these in these links. I sure hope you've enjoyed all this. I would enjoy hearing your feedback or anything that you have to say about these videos. Plug in to finding those out and finding and learning from them. And I appreciate you all taking the time and inviting me into your home and into all the places. And I hope that it's encouraged you to seek out Jesus more, to seek out God. I love you all. God bless.